Welcome back. This hour, President Trump is set to host the NATO Secretary General at the White House. It comes after some tumultuous diplomatic efforts by the Trump administration to try to end the war in Ukraine, starting with the president's meeting with Ukraine's President Zelensky on Friday, during which the president would not sign off on the sale of U.S.-made Tomahawk missiles for Ukraine. And yesterday, President Trump called off his meeting with Russian President Putin in Budapest. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman from Washington, Adam Smith. He's also the ranking member on the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Thank you.
It's good to see you as well. Look, you have been quite critical of President Trump's relationship with Vladimir Putin. I wonder what your reaction was when you saw that President Trump did, in fact, call that summit off in Budapest.
I think that's a positive, and we've seen quite a few positive signs since the summit in Alaska that the president at least has stopped directly blaming Ukraine for the war. He has rhetorically placed the blame where it belongs on Putin and Russia. What we need now is we need the president to put some actual pressure on Putin, whether that's the sale of more weapons to Ukraine or sanctions or something that makes it clear to Putin that his continuing this war is going to come with a cost. That's what's going to force him to the table. Look, Ukraine has done an incredible job of fighting back against Russia. They fought Russia to a standstill. Putin is in a very weakened position. We just need to make sure we keep pushing that position, adding strength to what Ukraine is doing to force Putin to the bargaining table. We can't be rolling out the red carpet for Putin and doing a lot of the stuff that Trump did in Alaska. We got to put pressure on Putin, not give him space. And that's what I hope the president will do going forward.
So you talk about pressure. Secretary Bessent just said this outside of the White House. He said, quote, "We are going to either announce after the close this afternoon or first thing tomorrow morning a substantial pickup in Russian sanctions." Your reaction to that, Congressman?
I think that's great. I think that's what needs to happen. And keep in mind, that's what needs to happen to end this war and to get to peace. That's what we all want. We don't want this war to continue. Certainly Ukraine doesn't want this war to continue. But Putin was going to keep pushing it in the hopes that eventually he could take over all of Ukraine. We have to make it clear to him that our support for Ukraine will not wane and that our alliance is going to stay strong, to make it clear that he can't win. That's what forces him to the table. So I think that would be a very, very welcome development.
Congressman Smith, I had the opportunity to talk to President Zelensky after he had wrapped up his meeting here in Washington at the White House with President Trump, where he said President Trump didn't say yes to Tomahawk missiles, but didn't say no. I want to play you a little bit of that interview and get your reaction on the other side. Take a look.
Very sensitive for Russians. They afraid that United States can deliver Ukraine. I think that Putin afraid that United States will deliver us Tomahawks. And I think that he really afraid that we will use, and he knows what military goals, we know where they are, where the military goals of Russia, and he afraid that we can use it.
Do you believe the U.S. should go so far as providing Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, something that Russia has said it will see as an escalation?
Yes. I mean, keep in mind, Putin has said every single thing we've done since he invaded in February of 22 was an escalation. He uses those threats to try to block the support for Ukraine. But yes, we should help Ukraine defend itself. We should not get into a direct conflict with Russia, and we haven't. But Russia invaded a sovereign country illegally and brutally. We should support Ukraine and continue to support them strong enough so that Russia can be stopped.
I do want to ask you about Venezuela. We have seen these strikes in the Caribbean by the Trump administration of suspected drug trafficking boats. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announcing today yet another strike on what the administration is calling narco terrorists. This time it was in the Eastern Pacific. You have called for a hearing on these strikes. Do you believe you have bipartisan support for that, Congressman? And do you think that you're going to get your hearing?
I do. I think there's bipartisan support for greater transparency from this administration. We're trying to push for the hearing. Congress has to come back into session for that hearing to happen. Speaker Johnson should stop shutting down the Congress and refusing to negotiate and actually engage. But yeah, I think there are a lot of Republicans who are concerned about this. There has been no transparency whatsoever on exactly who we are hitting and why and what the long-term strategy is. We've heard, well, we're very concerned about the spread of drugs in the U.S. And yes, we are all concerned about that. But using the U.S. military for lethal force is a huge, huge escalation and a huge step. And also we've heard, well, we're concerned about fentanyl, but there's no fentanyl coming out of Venezuela. We've then also heard from the president and others, words that make it sound like they want regime change in Venezuela, and also to put pressure on Colombia. I mean, so what is it? Why exactly are we using lethal force in an unprecedented way? There has been insufficient transparency and explanation. We don't even know exactly who is being hit. We've heard that there are 24, drug organizations that are on the list of targets, but who are those 24 exactly? And why have we been targeting these particular people? That lack of transparency, I think, is a violation of the Constitution, and Congress needs to exercise our constitutional obligation to have oversight over the Department of Defense, and certainly oversight over the president, basically starting a war with maybe Venezuela, maybe 24 different narcotic organizations, drug dealer organizations. We just don't know what's happening, and the lack of transparency from the Pentagon and the White House is very, very problematic.
I do want to ask you, Congressman, about the government shutdown. We are officially entering the 4th week of the shutdown. Federal workers set to miss yet another paycheck. Senator Thune is setting up a vote tomorrow on a bill that would pay those essential federal employees currently working without pay. Would you urge your Democratic colleagues to vote for that bill? And do you plan to vote for that bill?
Yeah, I support that bill, yes. But look, I listened to your interview with Dr. Oz. And by the way, why can't he just say, yeah, the president's wrong. You can't reduce prices by 1,400%. It's not actually possible. I wish somebody in the administration would feel comfortable enough to say, no, that's wrong. Just because Trump says it doesn't mean we got to twist all the basic facts of how the world works to try to make it look like he didn't say something stupid. But that's a minor little point. On the shutdown, it makes no sense that Dr. Oz is saying, well, we can't negotiate with you in this setting. I've been through a number of different shutdowns. Every single one of them has had strong opinions on both sides. Every single one has had Congress in session negotiating. It is precisely the most important moment for Congress to be in session when we have such a significant disagreement. The shutdown has a profoundly negative impact, but it is the Republicans' flat refusal to negotiate, their insistence that Democrats just have to vote for their budget. And that's what this is. Okay, you can call it a CR, but it is an extension of the budget past October 1st. It is an extension of Trump's budget. And we are troubled by that. If you want our votes, you should negotiate with us. And also, November 1st was a really important date. They wanted to do a CR until the 21st of November, past the point at which healthcare premiums were going to go through the ceiling. The reason we didn't vote for this was because there was an urgency to deal with this before November 1st, certainly before November 21st. And the Republicans' refusal to do that is why we didn't vote for it. We're talking about millions of people losing health insurance and millions of more having their costs go through the ceiling. And the Republican response is shut down the House, refuse to negotiate. That's not the way that this is supposed to work.
Very quickly, a new poll by the AP found that Americans think everyone, including Democrats, bears some responsibility for this shutdown. There you see it, 58% to 58%. Do you believe that you and other Democrats are starting to feel the pressure of that and the political price that could be paid?
I think there's pressure on all of us. And look, yes, of course, we all bear some responsibility for it. But the question is, well, what are we trying to accomplish? I mean, what Democrats are trying to accomplish is we're trying to save millions of Americans' health insurance. We're trying to save millions more from having their health insurance premiums skyrocket in cost. That's what we're fighting for. What are the Republicans fighting for exactly? To allow that to happen? I mean, that's the message I think we need to deliver to the American people. But look, it is not our intention to basically have the government shut down. We want to focus on health care. And the other thing we want to focus on is the president, spending money outside of the law. You know, how can we agree to an appropriations bill when the president says, okay, I'm going to fund Republicans, but not Democrats? I mean, these are issues that really matter and ought to be fought over. And again, it's just unacceptable that the Republicans have refused to have the House in session or even negotiate over these points. I mean, clearly they don't care about issues that matter a great deal to the American people.
All right, Congressman Adam Smith, thank you so much.